And now for our next keynote speaker and the last one, it is Christoph Bartnek, who is the Associate Professor of University of Canterbury in New Zealand. And I would say that Christoph is something of a rock star in the HR community. He has been smashing robots to pieces. He has been touched upon sensitive subjects like racism and its transferability to robots, and also making the whole community blush over the topic of sex robots. Today, he is here with another touchy subject, which is the graveyard of social robots. What is happening to all of these companies that are starting up and then disappearing? We've seen company after company failing. We've heard CEOs even cry at conferences asking us, the community, to help with how to succeed with the robots. And also seen the struggle of juggling the issue with academia being the biggest customers, but that other companies and public sector would be bringing the big cash to the company. It is quite brave of Furhat to actually invite Christoph today, I think, and I think it's really good to bring these topics into an arena like this. Welcome, Christoph.
Thank you so much for having me. Let's see if I can share my screen. I think that will go. First of all, next one. Okay. Allow open system preferences. Oh my goodness. Just a second. Again, sorry, it's the first time I've done this in a while here. Share screen. Yeah, share. All right. Yeah. Almost good. Okay. Move this. Sorry. Can you at least see some of my screen already?
I don't think so. Oh, sorry. We see it.
You see the screen now?
Yes.
It's the white one with social robotics on it?
Yes. Looks
okay.
good.
Wow, success.
Nice. Take it away.
All righty. Now, my topic today is social robotics, the end of the beginning or the beginning of the end. So I'm never quite sure which one it is. And I'll start off with asking a question. So to the audience, and maybe you can put this in the chat. What do all these robots that are on the screen right now have in common? We have a chat here. I think we do have a chat, right? So we should be able to see something in the chat. Well, sorry, I cannot really see what's in the chat right now. Maybe the commentator or the leader can point out or read out what's in the chat right now, please.
We will take the questions afterwards, so please continue.
Okay, well, okay, then let me rephrase. Have a look at this and think about what all of these robots have in common. And the answer is they're all gone. They don't exist anymore. They were in the market at some point, were being sold, and now they're gone. And when I move to the next slide, these are, of course, the new contenders. We got new robots that are being produced every time, including the one from Furhat. And the question, of course, now rises, okay, why do we expect this bunch of robots to be different from the bunch of robots we just saw before? And the answer to that is rather difficult because there's a lot of similarities between them, and the companies behind them are also similar. And of course, the problem here is that whenever I talk to Furhat and some other robot companies, they never really tell you how well their sales are going. And there's a good reason for that. If I'm in the market of buying a robot, then of course, if I buy this robot, I want to make sure that this robot is still around in a couple of years so I can get spare parts and software updates. But if the company would admit, like, oh, actually, we're really fighting, I'm not sure if it'll be around for much longer, of course, I'm not going to really like to buy a product from them. So I guess one of the biggest example in that case was Jibo. It was, marketed quite heavily and people bought it, and then it only lasted a year and then it was dead and gone. And we see this over and over again where we've got small players that have like a small company and big companies who bring things out. So I guess this is the kind of um, two groups, like big companies and small companies, bringing them out. We also see a big move right now where it's no longer just Asimov but and Boston Dynamics, but other companies start to create androids, and some of them even make claims that they have started mass production of these type of robots. And of course, these type of robots are human-like. They're not on wheels. They don't have arms on a wheel, and they're made for us, so they're supposed to operate in our environment with us, next to us, and so forth. And Agility Robotics, let me just take them. I was curious because after the report that they were like going in mass production, I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Let's ask them that. So I tried to email them and message them in every possible way. I try to contact them. They've got some phone numbers that are called, which go immediately to some sort of mailboxes. So there was not a single way how I could even contact this company and ask questions. So I found that quite weird that they don't even employ a secretary to take on calls. So, well, yeah, that makes me quite a bit concerned. Now, the vision that we have, of course, is pretty clear. So what we want is something like this. This was the first presentation of Tesla's Primus robots. And what they did is they just took a guy, put them into a suit, and let him dance, right? Because in a way, that is what we really want. We want something like this. And it's for us very easy to determine that. We want to have a butler in the best case, or a slave in the not so good case, because of course we also want to own it. So the vision that we have is very clear. We want something like this. And what Tesla then delivers is something like this, where we have again something that is much closer to reality of what everybody else could do right now, right? So there's a big gap between our vision and the ability of these robots. And of course, one could argue that all the time span was pretty quick in terms of they got off very quickly, and it's nice, it's fine, it's all good. But these kind of physical abilities are, of course, only a first step because they need to be able to do so. These robots are extremely expensive and not even close to what we would want to be able to afford in a home. And what has to be clear, I guess, that for big companies, it's not necessarily about the robots itself at all. So here Elon Musk says that he wants to have more control over robots. So otherwise, he's going to take his AI and robots somewhere else. And so he needs to be more in control of Tesla. So essentially now the robots have been a pawn in the chess game between Elon Musk and the other owners of Tesla. So I mean, Elon Musk only has a pretty small percentage of Tesla, so it's just a pawn in the game. And also, in a way, what we have is a bankruptcy delay, right? Um, because a lot of these products and projects don't actually make enough money. And for big players, that might not be the biggest problem. Like they can afford it. They've got enough money. And very often it seems that these robots are really just a marketing tool. It is a tool to show to the rest of the world how super duper advanced they are. And that then kind of shines onto the cars they sell, say, or other things. But it's predominantly about the marketing. It's a marketing tool. And for that, it's good enough. And they've got deep pockets for it. So even if it doesn't work, even if they don't even sell the robots, they still go ahead with it. And my recent famous example of this was NTT Disruption. So NTT Disruption was a sub company of the Japanese telecom company called NTT. And they were set up with whistles and bells, and they're going to be disrupting the market. And they were the ones who bought Jibu, who had previously failed, and they were promising, oh, we're doing it better. We're going to bring in business to business, and everything will be fine with Jibu. Well, they lasted for around 3 years, and then they shut their doors, and that was it. So it served their marketing purpose, never actually produced anything useful or sold anything, and then they're gone. So this is what happens with large players who can afford to do this. Now, for small players, the story is a bit different because small players, they are essentially with the back against the wall. It's like if they don't sell their robot, then they're done for. And well, one has to be clear that it's not just the income from selling the robots. Very often these companies have got investors or research grants that essentially keep them afloat and delay the bankruptcy. And I would really love to hear from Furhat on this about how their financial structure is really set up. Because these robots are really expensive and they're not really for the mass market or the end consumer because they can't do anything at all. At best, they can do something that Alexa can at a fraction of the price. So why do it? So getting it into the consumer market is really hard. So instead, they're targeted at us researchers. So they sell as a platform. And that's dangerous. And a lot of companies go out of business relatively quickly, which is for researchers a disaster because we have to sit and work with these robots for many, many years to come. And even if we take the most long-standing robot, Aldebaran now, who changed hands now several times to SoftBank and now to a holding company, their software hasn't been updated in ages. Their robots haven't been updated in ages. The Pepper robot is not on the roadmap for the future. So should you still buy a Nauro Pepper robot? Well, maybe you should. Maybe this is your last chance to ever get any of them. But then again, how long can you keep them alive when the robot breaks down and software production stops? So it's really, really hard. So yeah, my challenge to Furhat Robotics and any of the other smaller companies and big companies is like, what is different? Why do you think that you can succeed in the market where so many others have failed? And of course, the argument is, oh, we've got faster processors, more memory, and they're just better. But the question is that the source of the failure? Was that the reason why these other robots failed, the lack of processing power? The answer is probably no, it isn't. For my humble view, it's very often just
I'm sorry, Christoph, but
the
we're
robots
running a
don't
bit
do
out of
anything.
time. But
Okay.
thank you so
I'm
much for
actually
really
done.
giving us the hard truth of where social robots are and what is happening to these companies. But I was just wondering, would you say that this only is like a company structure problem or a revenue problem or a technological problem, or is it also a view on people are not ready to accept robots in society and doesn't really see the value of buying a robot?
Well, yeah. So if you sell something, I mean, for the giggles, you might buy an eyeball robot for the giggles and might entertain you for a little while, and you might be willing to spend some money on it. And iBooks are relatively cheap. But are you going to shell out $15,000 to $20,000 to get a robot that has an empty brain that you have to program yourself, that can barely walk around in the flat and cannot do anything? And the answer is no, you can't sell it to the end consumer, so you can only sell it to researchers. And then how many researchers are there? What is the size of the market? It's not so big. And if you sell a company a robot, what are the chances they're going to buy another one anytime soon? The answer is not very much. So the market size of customers right now for companies is very small. And there are competitors. So mass production probably is not going to kick in very much. And therefore, yeah, I wish Furhat to proceed and to survive. And maybe they could comment right now. How are you doing financially?
I'm not super sure that they are willing to come up here and tell you, but maybe they will answer you in the chat. Thank you so much, Christoph, for taking the time to going up so early in the morning and to give this presentation. It was very valuable. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.